The personality of a person is one of the most complex features of one's character, and many psychologists have attempted to theorize what it is that makes up a person's personality. In this video, we will use the 4 most popular personality theories to analyze a well-known comic book character you've undoubtedly heard of. No. He'd be great. Unfortunately, we're stuck with him. While each Deadpool writer has given their own unique twist to the character, this personality analysis will concentrate on writer Gerry Duggan's 95-issue run from 2012 to 2018. This writer avoids the LOL memes characterized by other writers and instead explores the sad clown personality that I will analyze.
Ooh, he's my favorite writer. Oh, hello, by the way. Deadpool here. Because I heard my name spoken more than 3 times, so, here I am. It's a shame they couldn't afford Ryan Reynolds or Nolan North, but let's get this video started.
Already regretting this. Sigmund Freud theorized that childhood experiences and the unconscious make up a person's personality and can go unnoticed throughout a person's life. Freud would likely identify Wilson as an interesting case and be intrigued by the specimen. Freud could argue that traumatic memories, or even the inability to recall his earlier memories caused by a mind wipe drug, would have been a key factor in the formation of Wilson's brain. Freud would argue that Wilson may be smarter than he lets on and wants everyone else not to have high expectations when it comes to him, but at the same time wants to belong to something. Freud would ultimately believe that what drives Wilson is the desire to be accepted, but simultaneously doesn't want to change who he is. Wilson's id is very noticeable as he tends to do a great many things to his own amusement, often gives in to his animalistic nature and does things just because he wants what he wants when he wants it. Some examples are the various times he threatened to use violence to get Mexican food or to get an Avengers Squad membership.
Hey, don't joke about Mexican food. It's really good. And you eat it too. Don't pretend you don't.
His id is evident as he's repeatedly shown giving in to his dreams and desires, but it can be argued that it's possible Wilson wouldn't carry out his acts of violence.
Yeah, I would have.
Wilson does in fact have an ego, despite what the general public in both the real world and the fictional Marvel universe believe. Another fictional character of the same universe believes Wilson is only playing the fool. Looking into many Deadpool comics, this note is supported by the countless times Wilson is shown making life hard on himself and often joking around or playing dumb. What's interesting about Wilson's ego is that it can be hard to distinguish it from his id, as he often wants others to see him as immature or even stupid, but hides his patriotic soldier, as this can often lead to disaster to those he cares for. This has gained him respect from the likes of Wolverine, Spider-Man, and even Captain America, because he is willing to sacrifice his own self-respect for the safety of his friends. Here we see the cliche superhero transition of a superhero that goes from ego to superego.
In all seriousness, life does get hard from time to time, and a lot of people just assume that I'm crazy. Sometimes it's just easier for people to think that, but some people understand, like Spidey, Wolvie, or Cap. Maybe not gonna answer this back.
What stands out about Gerry Duggan's take on Deadpool is we get to see Wilson's take on the superego for the first time. Now Wilson has more personal reasons to make sacrifices. Duggan accomplishes this with the introduction of Wilson's daughter. Wilson easily jokes around and messes with whomever he comes across, but connection to his daughter is something he's shown to always take seriously. Wilson always puts his daughter Eleanor before himself and protects her from many dangers while simultaneously attempting to be a true father in her life. He is shown as his best self when represented as a father rather than a fast-talking mercenary, protecting his daughter from the horrors of the outside world, terrorist organizations such as Hydra, Ultimatum, and even himself.
Oh, that girl means like everything to me. Nothing is more important than protecting family. Just remember that. For example, when Captain America turned out to be a Hydra sleeper agent, guess who was in charge of protecting her? Yeah, me.
Wilson's psychological defense mechanism is quite different than most. Wilson has had experiences with many of each type of defense mechanism. In terms of repression, Wilson's mind has suppressed many traumatic memories.
A prime example of that would be when I killed my own parents. It it was tragic when I remembered it.
Yes. Wilson was forced to kill his parents and left them to burn in his childhood home. It was so traumatic, Wilson was eventually driven mad again when he later remembered it. Regression examples would be when Wilson takes on mercenary jobs to occupy his time, or when he sleeps until he's hungry and eats until he's tired. Denial isn't shown in many Jerry Duggan comics, but in an earlier 1999 issue written by Joe Kelly, a character named T-Ray reveals to Wilson that he can't even keep track of the amount of bodies he's dropped. When asked whether he lost count or never cared about the body count, Wilson is in hard denial over how many he's hurt, and he didn't know the answer as to whether he didn't know or didn't care. He can't face the amount of death he has left in his wake, and is shown for the very first time to have regrets.
No. That never happened. Never did. And I'm not a Doctor Who fan. I swear, the director made me wear this.
Displacement is something that Wilson also does very often, but rather than aim his anger and sorrow at a person or object that poses no threat, though he does do that every once in a while, he tends to direct his unwanted feelings at himself to intentionally make his own life harder, which in turn keeps feeding his anger and sorrow. Wilson is also quick to project, as he often points out the shortcomings of others, but ignores his own. However, reaction formation isn't typically seen with Wilson, as he tends to make his feelings about people be very clear with everyone, whether it's through jokes or his serious moments. Yet, Wilson often partakes in rationalization. At times, when caught doing something either impolite or violent, his justifications can range from blaming inconvenience to saying he's acting a certain way because of the writer's influence in his comics. Wilson often has not taken responsibility for any wrong he's done, but is also not shy when it comes to the good he's done, whether by his opinions or others. Lastly, sublimation was a defense mechanism Wilson has not demonstrated until he learned about his daughter. Before Eleanor, Wilson would channel his unacceptable impulses into his mercenary jobs. But once he realized he was setting an example for his daughter, he would channel his impulses to keep her safe, entertain her, help his friends, form his own team, and even fund the Avengers. Wilson is shown to be a perfect candidate for Maslow's hierarchy of needs. In many of his comics, the writers never dwell on physiological needs, as it's always implied that this is taken care of. The second stage is when Wilson gives a run for its money. Safety needs are not something Wilson has been shown to concern himself with, though this is likely due to his regenerative ability that leads him to believe he's immortal. Rather, Wilson's safety needs rest with those he cares about, such as his friends, family, and favorite superhero groups. The third stage is the most complicated stage for Wilson.
I am immortal! Okay, in all seriousness, my relationships are like on and off with like everybody. Avengers, X-Men, Fantastic Four, Guardians of the Galaxy. On and off.
Yes, this is true. His relationships with people have been on and off quite a number of times with people from various different groups. With most members of these groups, he wants to be friends with them all, but others tend to see him as too crazy or wild for their liking. Those that do consider Wilson a friend do admit to seeing him as extreme at times, and a man trying to outrun his own depression. Wilson has yet to reach the fourth and fifth stage because he feels emotionally stuck and can never seem to move past it. In early 2015, Wilson said, "All the peace I felt is gone. I ruin it because I can, because it's easy. I fought for Protestants, I fought for the Camachos, I fought for my friends. I've tried to make these people not just safe, but happy. I didn't go looking for these people. They walked into my life, and now imbalance is restored. I fought for the happiness of everyone around me. I've been willing to die for that happiness. I now realize I've never experienced happiness. I put on a good show, but I simply don't know the meaning of the word. And I never will.
I told you I don't like to talk about that.
Wilson's inability to accept himself as a decent human being often leads him to see connections with others, usually superheroes, as they help him feel more special and important. He does feel empathy, and this is something most people forget about him. It is not true that Wilson often leaves those he cares about or kills enemies that could be a threat to them later on because he doesn't feel or care, but rather because he feels too much and is most afraid of feeling lost again. Above all else, Wilson's greatest fear is losing everything and everyone he cares about.